On our morning show today from WRCO, we start out with Mayor Todd Coppernoll, Mayor of the City of Richland Center. Later on, former Congressman Scott Klug will join us by phone. We appreciate you taking time to stop by the studio, Mayor Todd. That weather certainly has been something here this fall. It's kind of been up and down, hasn't it?
It has been. Good morning, Phil. Thanks for having me back on. Yeah, I noticed the weather this last week. Of course, we had the cold mornings, a lot of frost on the ground, frost on the windows. And last night more reminded me of my high school days. It just never got that cool. So you just never know this time of year. But
never got to that level.
Never did.
Oh, well, that's all right. Man, there are a lot of things going on here in the city, and certainly a lot of things to be proud of. You know, we went through a homecoming here in Richland Center since the last time you and I talked, and we had the Rotary Lights Parade and all of those things going on. Lots of good things.
Tremendous amount of activity. I've never seen as many events in such a short window in Richland Center. We had multiple parades. We had Pumpkin Fest, which went great.
Yeah.
People having a lot of fun. And a wine walk took place, and on down the list in that short window. And I thought it was funny because I promise you somebody will come up to me within a month and say there's nothing to do here. And when in fact, there were people fighting to choose which place do I go? Do I go to Wheels of Time? You know, do I go to this UTV ride over here? All of this going on. I love that. We've put a lot of work into raising awareness of our city and our county, promoting tourism and all of those things, and the results couldn't be more obvious. People are actually telling me, you know, can you spread this stuff out a little bit now? There's too much in a short time. And not too many years ago, it was, well, why aren't we doing more things? So that's I'm proud of that, and a lot of other people here are too.
Well, and then I misspoke. I said it's actually not a Rotary Lights Parade. It was the Lights Parade, but the Rotary Lights will be coming up later this month, too,
Yep.
right?
I was going to give you a pass, Phil. I heard it, but
Yeah.
no, it's true. The Lights Parade took place, but don't forget, folks, Rotary Lights will kick off in just a few weeks here, and we brought it up today, Phil and I, because by the time I'm on the air again, it will have started, but Rotary Lights, a huge deal here in town now, one of the better light displays in southwest Wisconsin, and we're pulling people from La Crosse to Madison to our small city. Again, so much hard work. Keith Bailing, Richard Cairns, and everybody involved. Thank you for everything you've always done. And to all of the families and the businesses who sponsor and put up the displays and the trees. Fantastic. It's something, again, it's something for the whole community to look forward to and enjoy in the holiday season. And it's just a few weeks off now.
The fall sports season has gotten off to a good start as well at Richland Center High School and other schools. But the kids really are ambassadors for the city, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And a lot of hard work. I'm going to give some credit, and I'll do Richland Center and you do Ithaca. I think that's fitting.
Okay.
Okay, so at Richland Center High School this year, the football team fought back from a tough start, went through some disappointing losses, dug in, didn't quit, worked hard, made the playoffs. Great job. Okay, I know they lost the playoff game. I understand that. But the effort and the teamwork and the resilience it took for them to be in that playoff game really is the story of their season. So congratulations to all of the players, their parents, the coaches, everybody, the cheerleaders, everybody involved. But let's not stop at football, which too many people like to do. How about the volleyball team at Richland Center High School that took the number one ranked team in the state to the brink of elimination? Again, fighting back. They could have given up. They were down. That team was supposed to beat them. Everything was working against them. They didn't give up. They fought back, and they pushed them as far as you can. They lost the match. Again, I know those girls hate that part. You're supposed to hate that part. Nobody wants to lose. But the story, again, really is what they did as a group. And when I say that, that's those girls on that team, that's those equipment managers, that's the parents, the coaches, it's everybody involved. It's always so much bigger than just the ones in the uniform. But to the volleyball team at Richland Center, excellent effort again. So proud of you. It's not about the final score in the last match. That's how it feels right now. But what you did as a group is what you will remember years down the road. And then we're going to pivot to the cross-country team. And we have kids from Richland Center High School making it to the state tournament now, and multiple kids. And again, so much work, so much effort. That sport, it's a tough grind. It's so physically demanding, and you do it without much fanfare. You just don't see the pep band at a cross-country meet very much, things like that. And those kids never stop. You can't. To be any good at that sport, it takes tremendous commitment and dedication, and you're out there by yourselves. It's you, the coach, and the other kids on the team most of the time, and you see them out running in their practice, and who are they with? They're with themselves, and there's nobody sitting in bleachers cheering them on. And they did it, and that program is on the rise. And I know sometimes in our society we can overdo sports and talk too much about it. I'm aware of that. But I'm using that recent example of young people in this community who believe in themselves, who believe in the concept of team, work hard, get things done together. And we had several examples in a short window. Way to go, Richland Center Hornets.
Indeed. And the soccer team did well, I know, this year. And
they did.
They had a good year. Yeah, and as you mentioned, Ithaca did a good job, too, with the first time in school history winning a conference volleyball championship and then a regional championship. And then the football team was 10-0 going into Friday night, but lost a game in Johnson Creek. But great season.
So, again, those kids, those Bulldogs, you're right, it stings right now you lost. Nobody wants to lose. And I get that all day long. But again, wonderful achievements by the football team to be undefeated that late in the year. And the volleyball team, first time ever in school history, one group will ever be able to say they did that, and it's that group. Way to go, kids.
Yeah, absolutely. In the city, you've got a lot of things on the agenda right now. I think we begin with the budget.
Right. It's budget time, as it is every year this time of the year. So the Finance Committee will be meeting Thursday of this week to begin reviewing the initial draft of the budget as prepared by the city administrator. And I want you to pay attention here, folks, because this is where what really should matter the most to you, honestly, if you live in the city. Your older persons, your 8 elected older persons, will soon vote to approve where and how millions of dollars are spent. How much goes to this project, that department? That is decided in a vote by your 8 older persons, which will take place in early December, after review, of course, by the Finance Committee and so forth. But that is really, if you think about what government does. So make sure you have, police, fire, make sure you're taking care of the streets, all of these things, the parks, all of these things that are paid for by the municipality, mostly through the collection, largely through the collection of property taxes from all of us who live in the city. This is when we need to have our eyes on the prize, because this is when those 8 people that all of us elected to represent us on the council will decide where that money gets spent. And it is that time of year, and then that ties into a couple of other points. There's a couple of very significant contracts that happen to be expiring at the end of the year. The first one is the contract with our police, their police union, and negotiations for a new contract there have been underway, and hopefully, and I believe, very probably will be brought to a conclusion in the very near future here. But we've had to work through that and get a new deal there for the police. And it's such a challenge. It's a very difficult place to be, because God love our police. They're great people. I don't want to think about what the world would be like without police protection. I will not think about what that would be like. And the city has always worked hard to take care of our officers, to get them good equipment, good training, and pay them as best we can. But saying that, we're working within a tight budget. Okay, we're a small city, and that's reality. And it just gets into some conversations sometimes that can be a little uncomfortable, because you're telling people you have tremendous respect for, we might not be able to do everything you're asking us to do. And then you have to work through that. It always ends well. We're blessed to have quality officers who understand what I just said, and we're blessed to have a pro, if you want to say it like this is maybe stronger than it needs to be, but it makes the point, a very pro-police group of older persons, myself, the city administrator. We know who we need and why we need them, and we know what they do for us. So we'll get that done as soon as we can. And then lastly, on that list, it is time to make a decision on the city administrator. We hired one, as the council did, just about 3 years ago right now, on a 3-year contract that is expiring in late December. So it is time now for the city council, for the 8 elected older persons, and this one, of course, runs through the personnel committee first, but it's time for the city council to decide the future there. Do you want to keep the administrator position as the big picture question? And then within that, if you do that, do you want to renew a contract with the existing administrator or not? And again, big decisions, right? All at this time of year, and this particular year happened to be when it was time for a new police contract, a new administrator contract. And of course, those are going to be in the city budget, so it falls in line with when you do that. So myself as mayor and our administrator and our city council will be very busy people over the next couple of months because, well, really, in particular, the next about 5 or 6 weeks, because all of these things have to be buttoned down. The budget has to get approved in time for naturally when the property tax bills go out. Sorry, I said that out loud, but it's true. And so you can't sit here and talk about this until Christmas, right? You got to get some decisions made. And that's where we are. Which leads me, again, into the next step. Phil's got a handwritten list over there, and I'm across the room knocking them down. Okay. Somebody told me there's an election tomorrow. Phil, did you hear that?
Oh, there is?
I heard there's an election tomorrow. Obviously, the presidential election has dominated the headlines, but also U.S. senator, state representative, on down the list. So city offices, meaning mayor, city council, are not on the ballot. They are in April. So I'm going to remind Richland Center city residents of the extreme significance of those 8 city council, city older person seats, what their role is, and how to get involved if you want to be involved, how to be a candidate if that's what you'd like to do. So in early December, if you want to run for city council, that's when you can go down, if you're a city resident over age 18, go down, if you want to the city clerk's office in the city municipal building, which is on Main Street, right by the police station, right next to Family Dollar. Go into the city clerk's office and you do what's called, it's taking out nomination papers. The common slang is pulling papers to run for city council. And what you do is you basically go in and make your intentions known that you'd like to be a candidate, and the clerk will do what you need to do with you and will hand you nomination papers that you circulate in your neighborhood, in your district, and you turn in the required number of local signatures, get yourself on the ballot. Why is that a big deal? Because we live in a country, we're blessed to live in a country that uses a representative form of government. We use elected officials. We don't have a king. We're not a communist nation, right? We use local people elected to make these decisions on behalf of the people from their town, in this case, from their own neighborhood. That's not a little thing, guys. The city council decides where the money goes. The city council decides what local laws, city ordinances get passed or may be repealed or amended. All big, impactful decisions that affect thousands of lives, all of our lives, that impact the direction of the city's future. It's a big thing. And every April, half of the 8, so 4 of our city council seats are up for election every April. The city's cut into 4 districts based on, just to get a sort of an even split of the population into 4 groups. And every district has 2 representatives. So if you live in Richland Center, you have 2 representatives on the city council. And every single spring, 1 seat in each district is up for election. So that will be true in April. To get on the ballot, you come down in early December, you get your nomination papers from the city clerk, you circulate them in your neighborhood. You have until usually the first couple days of January to turn those papers back in at the clerk's office, and your name is on the ballot for an April election. So you would be, if you are elected, sworn in, and you become an older person mid to late April on a 2-year term. I encourage people to run for office. I encourage people to be engaged in the process because it does you no good to either hold your opinion to yourself or simply not pay attention until after a vote is taken by the council and the decisions are made. If you just watch it happen and then complain later, you've accomplished nothing and you're frustrated. Give yourself a chance. Get out ahead of it. Get yourself on the city council. And if that's not who you are, or you don't have the time, anything like that, engage with your older persons. It's perfectly fine to call me or to ask me questions. That's why I'm here. No problem. But the people that will vote on behalf of your neighborhood are the older persons you've elected to represent you. And you have two of them. And my advice to anybody, any issue you have with the city in your neighborhood, anything you'd like to see Richland Center do or change or try to bring to town, all of those things, talk to your older persons. Find out who they are. They're on the city website. If you don't know, look it up. That's the first step. And get in touch with them and stay in touch with them. And, I mean, that's the answer. So election season does not end tomorrow. City election season kicks off with nomination papers in December for an April election, and I'm encouraging our citizens to get a little bit more engaged. We could definitely use more participation.
Yeah. And if someone has a question on where they live in terms of the district, and the other thing is they wonder about where to vote. Those are two important things right now.
Yeah, they're hugely important. So that's great segue, Phil. Okay, when you go to those of you who will vote in person tomorrow at the poll, which I'm going to do myself, when you get there, the election volunteers, which thank you to all of you, the dedicated people who have worked so hard to prep for this election and to get everything ready, and to the staff in the city building that's handled the big wave of in-person voters we've already had. But when you get to the poll tomorrow, if you don't know where you need to be, the volunteers will get you there. And then if you don't know who represents you, look it up on the city website. If you have any questions, again, just the best answer if you don't know, get to the city clerk's office if you don't know, and they can show you exactly, who your representatives are and how to reach them. All the contact is on the city website, emails and phone numbers for everybody involved.
Mayor Todd Coppernoll, our guest on the morning show, and we'll have more coming up in a moment. Mayor Todd Coppernoll, our guest on WRCO's morning show today for a Monday, looking ahead at some things going on in the city of Richland Center as we close out the final 2 months of the year. Recently, a successful Pumpkin Fest. I think you talked about that, and some very special things going on in the city, but it seems like there's something just about every month in our fair town.
We got way past that every weekend. And
Yep.
sometimes multiple events on every weekend, which is really an interesting thing to watch that grow and evolve from not much going on to sometimes people feeling like too many choices in a small window. And that has happened in recent years. We put a big push on tourism, and it's working. And it isn't just city employees and elected officials responsible for that. Pumpkin Fest is a volunteer committee of local people that said, this is a neat idea. How do we do it? And they took it and said, we're going to do it, which is awesome. And we got it. And this was the second year. The banners were up all around downtown. A lot of people had fun carving their pumpkins and going down and seeing all of them on display. It's just fun, right? Simple fun that we have because a group of local people said we should do this.
What's interesting, too, is how busy the Airbnbs stay and things like that. And you talk about tourism. You can go downtown on the weekends, and you never cease to see somebody any time of the year that's from out of the area staying here.
No, that's true, and it's a really interesting mix. We draw deer hunters, turkey hunters, people who fish for trout. We draw that crowd. We're getting bicyclists and ATVers. That's kind of like cattle ranchers and sheep herders, but they both come here. I love that. They both come here. The Frank Lloyd Wright enthusiasts come here. So whatever you want to call it, right and left and center, different age groups, different backgrounds, they're coming here, guys. Ask the people at the Starlight 14. They're consistently pulling Madison and La Crosse to Richland Center because it's beautiful here. And it's different than where they live. So they come out here to do that. Ask the people who work the desk at the Aquatic Center in the summer. They're pulling people from all over the area because what we built there is unique and different than what they have in their town. So they come here to use that. And on and on. And you're right. The Airbnbs that have sprung up all around are full, doing very well. And you have people coming here from a lot of different places to do a lot of different things. And I think it's very important that the local people stay in tune with that so you realize it, because I think human nature, one part of it, I think a lot of people that live within a half hour of the house on the rock don't care. And then somebody comes from California to see it. that kind of thing.
Yeah, drive by it all the time. And
Yeah, I don't. It's just
don't
there.
stop.
That kind of stuff. Where you live here. So, oh yeah, I could have gone to the Starlight 14. I could have taken the kids to roller skate. I could have done, the Canyon of Lights parade. Oh yeah, I was busy that night. And then somebody who lives an hour away, like, that was so cool. Make sure you don't forget or overlook what we have here, because we do have a pretty unique place.
You had a successful public forum earlier this year, and I think the plan is to kind of keep those going periodically, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the City of Richland Center, the county board or county government, and Richland School District officials do continue to meet to discuss things going on in all three places. And the primary reason we do is because all of us are involved. Your property taxes support every entity that I just listed off. So what's going on? And how can we collaborate? Is there a way to work together? Is there a way to save money or improve services without increasing what it costs? Things like that, to really jointly serve the taxpayers who are funding all three entities. And I think that's critically important. What would you think if you found out that 2 or 3 of them were paying for something that maybe if you shared a little bit, or maybe if you'd talked about it, you wouldn't have all had to put money into the same place? Things, just being very crude with the example, things like that. And how can this group help that group get something that would be impactful? And I'm really, really grateful. This came from early conversations a couple of years ago that were had between Marty Brewer, who was then the chair of the county board, and myself. We just have lunch at the time with City Administrator Ashley Oliphant and then County Administrator Clint Langrack. We'd go once a month to lunch, and we would just talk about what's going on. And then sort of informal meetings in the evening, with myself and Marty, sometimes Aaron Unbehind from the school board, or Steve Board from the school district. What are you guys working on? What do you think we can do here? And it has led to East Hall at the campus becoming the charter school building for the school district. It has led to a police officer in the Richland Center High School, which the district the term game changer is how they call that. What that did for the culture there, because it's a great resource for staff, parents, and students. And Officer Jared Wilson's done a wonderful job up there. These things came from these kind of conversations. And of course, then that one involved our police chief, Billy Jones, who did great work with our city administrator and then the school board to get that position created. Well, we did public forums, 2 in the same day. Last year, I believe it was in January. And it went great, and we very well attended, and great questions were asked, and we all got a lot of positive feedback. We're working on the next one in December. I'm not going to announce a date today, because I want to make sure we're all good to go on the day we chose. But we should be holding a public forum, which will have representatives from the city, the county, and the Richland School District. More than likely at the Phoenix Center again. That's, I don't think, confirmed yet either, but more than likely there, where you can come and we'll all have things to say and you can ask questions. Again, grateful for all of that. And then I want to make sure while I'm here, Phil, to give thanks, personal thanks, to the City Council, to the 8 people who are serving as older persons. It is what it is. It's democracy, which means we don't always agree. Okay, there are older persons who disagree with each other. There's older persons who disagree with me. That's how it's supposed to go, right? Dialogue, debate, conversation to get the best decision. And it isn't easy, guys, because it's a lot of time away from home. It's a lot of committee meetings, more than you think sometimes. And it's one of those things where you're going, whether you meant to or not, whether you welcomed it or not, you will get praise from people, but you'll get criticism too. And it's a small town, and the people talking to you, pro and con, may have known you since you were 5 years old. And they may be, your dad's best friend, whatever it is. And you have to be fair with everybody, and you have to understand that comes with it. It's a big commitment, but it's so worth it, and it's so invaluable. It's irreplaceable. And these, at this point right now, thank you to the 8 people currently serving on the council. We are very busy. We are going to decide very soon on next year's city budget, on the future of the city administrator, on the new police contract, very possibly a decision on getting some apartments built, and I don't mean a few. As we get into next year, very possibly discussing a new subdivision of houses. And how that would get built, and where, and if the city has to be involved, where does the money come from and how. And these are big, big decisions, critically important to today and tomorrow in Richland Center. And it takes committed citizens who are willing to show up and do the work, and we've got 8 of them right now doing it. Thank you from the mayor to the city council.
With the public forum you alerted to, is there any planned agenda there or any purpose for it? Or
Well, what we'll do at the time, and that's why one of the reasons we went with December, we just met about not quite 2 weeks ago. We met and we said, well, first of all, you got holidays coming in there, but you also have all these budget meetings and things everybody has to do. There's enough on everybody's plate. But the other thing is, give all 3 entities a little window here to sort of formulate the things they know they want to talk about at that meeting. So I don't have an agenda prepared to inform people about yet. We will, and I'm sure it'll get reported. I'm sure Joanne will get it, and we'll get it on the air down here. And the thing is, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really proud of it. We just started, a couple of us, hey, we should be talking to each other, and I don't know why. Maybe some of our predecessors didn't, but here we are now. Let's do this. We all represent the same people. And from some very informal conversations that had that theme, we got to the point of a public forum that was attended by a couple hundred people over the 2 meetings, and a lot of give and take, and people were very thankful and pleased, thankful for the opportunity to hear and to ask, and pleased to know that the groups they support with tax dollars are working together. We have to. Phil, we're a small county. We have 18,000 people in Richland County, 5,100 of whom live in the only city we've got. We've got to work together. There's no maybe here, and there's no possibility for divorce, guys. You better figure it out. And we have been, and I'm proud of that. It's not easy to do, and we don't agree all the time, believe that. But the one thing I can tell you that your city leaders, your county leaders, and the Richland School District leaders do agree on all the time is that when it can be done, we need to work together for the better of everyone we represent.
This time of year, we're getting into the winter months. Is this the time of year when you hear about people inquiring about the possibility of building or anything like that? Or is that kind of taper off as you get to the winter months?
It's funny about that. It's not really related to the climate anymore. Probably a little bit, maybe. But the process, if you're going to do a big build, so a big apartment complex, a new commercial building, maybe put in a street of houses, that's such an undertaking. There's so much behind the scenes that goes on that I wouldn't have known if I never became an elected official. And I know most of the general public just has not been exposed to the process to understand how complex it can be. Depending on what you want to build and where you want to build it, you might need DOT consent, you might need DNR consent, you might need funding from the city or whatever else. Somebody might need to annex a property. Somebody might need to rezone a property. Somebody might need to do a parcel split and make one piece of land, 2 pieces of land. All of these kinds of things have to come through the Plan Commission, and they have to be considered by both the Plan Commission and the ETZ board, which is basically extraterritorial. It's the land sort of adjacent to the city as a board that helps oversee that. Nothing goes fast. State laws say run that in the paper twice, have a public hearing, get letters out to the neighbors. It all depends on the project, but none of these things can be done in 1 or 2 quick meetings and a vote. So you get approached. You could get approached in July. You could get approached in January for some of these. And it can get frustrating without a doubt. And you can believe that a project is going to go, and then you got 9 of the 10 boxes checked, and the 10th one trips it up, and you get frustrated because all that time and effort went into it. You did the right things, and then it didn't come to pass. But it takes a dedicated group to stay on these things and see them to the end, and that's That's the elected people, but it's city employees. And sometimes it could be Phil Nee Enterprises comes down and wants to build a new commercial structure, and then something happens on their end. And after all that work, they have a change of heart. So
couldn't get enough popsicles.
Couldn't get enough popsicles. The orange popsicle stand that Phil wanted to construct down there on 14 East. I would have loved it.
When you're putting together a budget, though, kind of twirling back to one of the things you talked about there, too, talk about our own personal budget, but we're talking major stuff here and all the hoops that have to be jumped through and everything. And plus, when you're talking about contracts, too, you're not going to go down from where you were. Generally, when you're offering money to police or officials or whatever, you're usually looking at increases with insurance and all those things. So it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. It's not, because naturally, when a group comes to negotiate, they're asking for a raise. Of course they are. No kidding. And we are in an era where we just had steep inflation and the cost of living went up a bunch, and that's going to be reflected in what they're asking. That just makes sense. And then, it involves benefits package. So, retirement, health insurance, all those things that come into that. And those are very expensive things, too, that have to be accounted for in the budget because the money's coming from someplace. And it's difficult because in any community, honestly, but particularly in a smaller one, expenses can grow faster than revenue. Very quickly, and it's a challenge. What are you going to cut if you have to? And you can't get out of that. What are you going to cut if you have to? Or are you going to try to do this by raising taxes? Are you going to try to go to referendum thing or do short-term borrowing? All of these things that are not small decisions and are not popular with the public. Pretty please raise my taxes is something no one has ever said to me, Phil. And the city's done a great job at keeping the lid on property taxes. If you go back and look at your property tax bill over the last few years and look at the percent of increase from the city, we've been very diligent. We've been very mindful and kept an eye on that. I mean, we all pay those taxes too. But, you look to the future and you have to say, will there be a time where the city has to change course a little bit? I'm not forecasting anything. That's not veiled information coming from the mayor. I'm speaking generally. They could happen. If, you have critical services you have to provide. Police and fire are easy choices. It's streets, all of these things that you simply have to provide for your people. And as expenses rise, you get into these conversations, and that's when the sweat comes out, because that's when the tough choices get made, whether it's the county board, the school board, or the city council.
Well, tomorrow morning, the polls will open at 7. I presume Mayor Todd will be in line about that time or a little after that then?
Yep, I'm choosing to vote in person. I've always voted in person. It's still what I prefer to do, and I'll be doing that tomorrow. Whatever you have chosen to vote in person, to vote in advance of the election, which quite a few people have. It's been busy in the clerk's office too, for sure. Just make sure you do vote. Again, participate in the form of government that you're fortunate to have by living in this country. Get out and have your voice heard. Win or lose, have your voice heard. You really don't have much to say, in my opinion. I mean, coming to the people who were elected, if you didn't vote, coming down 6 months later is pretty silly. Win or lose, get out and vote and have your voice heard. I will be fair about this and nonpartisan by wishing all of the candidates on the ballots tomorrow good luck at every level. I mean, it's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. There's no way around that. I think everybody knows that. But good luck to everybody. All the effort that went into this, it's pretty crazy.
Yes, it is.
But we're here.
We're here. We'll see you next month then, Mayor Todd. We appreciate you.
Phil, thanks for having me on again. I'll see you in December.
You bet. Mayor Todd from the City of Richland Center joining us. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about the election coming up with former Congressman Scott Klug. Interesting conversation coming up next.